Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Jason Mackey's First 10, a short version podcast talking all things Pittsburgh sports. And a happy Friday to you, even though it's Friday the 13th, Friday, December 13th. To be exact, it's a beautiful day out there, a snow-covered day in Pittsburgh. Going to talk about some Steelers, Eagles, some keys to victory there. Have a few of your questions as well. And want to talk about Pitt volleyball, heading to the Elite Eight against Kentucky. I was at the Pitt yesterday. I want to discuss that performance a little bit, as well as what I think about Dan Fisher's team at this point. First, I want to remind you, though, this show is brought to you by Edgar Snyder and Associates. If you're injured in an accident, you're probably wondering what's next. For over 40 years, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped injury victims answer that question. Whether it's gathering evidence, collecting medical records, or dealing with insurance companies, Edgar Snyder and Associates has helped over 75,000 people handle what's next. Call 1-800-94-EDGAR or visit edgarsnyder.com for a free consultation. And remember, there's never a fee unless they get money for you. All right, so I want to start Steelers, and I want to start with my keys to victory. Maybe that's it, but more of a what needs to happen in order for this to be a success and for the Steelers to get their first win in Philadelphia since 1965. Another point I want to make about this, another opinion, it's okay to want to win this game. Like, I realize they have 3 games in 11 days. Those teams are 30-8. They only need to beat the Ravens to win the AFC North. They should be shooting higher than that. There's more to achieve than win the AFC North. Now, that's crazy at the beginning of this thing, right? Let's have some perspective. Let's zoom out. Let's think about what was expected of this team earlier this season. Not much, right? They were picked to finish 4th, 3rd in the North. And all of a sudden, they've ascended to a very good spot. Well, you know what? I'm greedy. I want more. You should be greedy, and you should want more too. And no, things have not gone well in Philadelphia. They've lost, I believe, 10 straight meetings there. They never play well there. 2022 was the most recent meeting. It was awful. They were about 1 for 5,000 on third down. I think it was actually 1 for 12. But in any case, I want to win. You want to win. I want to see what it would take to beat the Eagles, what it would mean to them if they shut down Saquon Barkley. This is a very good team, and I think it's an important piece of momentum to carry into the other ones. So what needs to happen? What do they need to do? Well, the biggest thing is stopping Saquon Barkley, right? Kind of a basic thing, but it's true. It's true. He's had fewer than 100 yards 4 times this season. Only 4. That is nuts to me. I mean, I guess that's what tends to happen when you are on pace to go over 2,000 yards and break the NFL rushing record. But my goodness, in those 4 games, of course, they're 2-2. Stop Saquon. You at least give yourselves a chance. All right, what else needs to happen? Well, got a question in the Q&A portion about Roman Wilson. Well, I'm not going to use that in the Q&A portion of this episode because Roman Wilson is on IR, but that doesn't diminish the need for other Steelers receivers to step up. Most notably, Mike Williams. If this isn't a week for him to take over, and I mean, yes, last week could have been that as well, but they need to take shots downfield. You saw what the Browns did, stacking the box. The Steelers need to take the top off of that defense with somebody. No, Mike Williams is not going to be George Pickens. Don't need him to be George Pickens. But they need, with a week of practice, to get him more involved, to take some shots downfield and open up the other stuff. All right. I said earlier in the week about Russell Wilson, I think this is the biggest game he will play for the Steelers. And frankly, that's why you have a veteran quarterback. That's why, in a normal year, next year, they're going to be paying him a pretty good amount of money. They got a bargain because of the Denver Broncos in that situation, and they're only paying him, $1 million and some change. I don't have the cap figure off the top of my head, but this is why you pay Russell Wilson, to figure out, to scheme, to, basically outbrain. I know that's a funny term, but outbrain the defense. And I think Russell Wilson can do it. Fourth thing, Jalen Carter has been an absolute game wrecker for the Philadelphia Eagles. Can't let him wreck this game. Block him up front. The offensive line has been a very sneaky good part of the Steelers. I've been so impressed by them. Think about beginning of the season. You've lost 3 guys to injury. Do you notice it? No. Dan Moore's had a great bounce back. Broderick Jones has been really good of late. Mason McCormick has stepped in flawlessly. Isaac Seumalo has been an outstanding veteran. And Zach Frazier, he's the Steelers center of the present and the future. So a big task ahead with Jalen Carter. I think they can do it. Jalen Hurts, this is the 5th thing in the passing game. Don't get hurt. I mean, 1, you want to preserve health for the rest of the stretch run. And 2, Jalen Hurts, I think, is better than numbers would indicate. At minimum, he's doing what's required of him in this system, which feeds Saquon Barkley a lot, but he's not turning it over. He's not making mistakes. Last 4 games, completed 64% of his passes, 626 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks, a rating of almost 100, added 3 yards on the ground. Can't let them get going. I think this passing game can actually be very good, but the Steelers don't want to allow them to get going too much. All right, going to take a short break. I'll be back with some thoughts on Pitt volleyball, as well as your question, mainly on the Pirates and the trade, and a couple points I want to make there. But first, a message from the Bradenton Area Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Embrace the laid-back charm of island life while sinking your toes in the sand and discovering real, authentic Florida in the Bradenton area. Unspoiled beauty and pristine beaches, a vibrant waterfront downtown energized by local arts and culture, fresh Floridian cuisine with a flourish of rich history, and friendly locals ready to welcome you to this preserved paradise on Florida's Gulf Coast. Plan your visit today at BradentonGulfIslands.com.
Welcome back to First 10. I'm your host, Jason Mackey. We're here middle of the morning, Monday through Friday for about 10 minutes. Thanks so much for finding us. So Pitt volleyball yesterday, 5-set win over Oregon. I thought this was extremely impressive. I think this is the 4th match of the Panthers that I've seen this season. I was at Buffalo at the Fitzgerald Fieldhouse. That was an hour-plus romp. Penn State, which was also another dominant performance. Louisville, which was a 5-set gridded out kind of match. This one was a lot like that, except I think the Panthers played better against Louisville. They did not play. I struggle to say they didn't play well, because they did. They won a 5-set match to advance to the Elite Eight. You can't diminish that. But was this their best game? No. And there were pockets in it where they easily could have let it get away from them. The 4th set, for example, I wrote about this in my column. They're down 6, 17, 17-6, however you want to phrase it. They come back. They don't win the set. You might let that fester. They didn't, of course. I love their tradition of before a consequential set, they go in the locker room and just scream. Just let it all out. It's their way of sort of moving on to the next situation. They did in the 5th set, scored the first 5 points. Just the mental toughness of this group, not to mention the physical impressiveness, the dominance. Olivia Babcock, 31 kills yesterday. It's so fun to watch them. They're in action against Kentucky on Saturday. I'm sorry I'll be missing that. I'm going to be heading to Philadelphia, but it's on ESPN2. Certainly watch that for a chance to go to a 4th consecutive Final Four next week in Louisville. But a very impressive win. I thought it wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing, at least not compared to some of the other ones I've seen, but just shows a mental toughness and some really impressive stuff from Dan Fisher's team. All right, let's finish up with a few of your questions, a lot of them tied to the Pirates and what's going on, the trade they made this week for Spencer Horwitz. Sam Theopolis asks, and at Sam Theopolis, Twitter handle, the Pirates' recent trade feels like a massive overpay for what can best be described as a promising first baseman. And are there rumors they're shopping Keller and Jones? Did the Pirates realize they'd inadvertently become strong in one area and decide they'd better fix that? All right, let's have a realistic conversation about the Pirates here and Noah and Andrew's articles and the idea of overpaying for Spencer Horwitz. Number one, I do not like the trade. I don't think I'll ever like the trade. I don't like the trade because I would not give up young pitching in hardly any circumstance. And I feel like if you give up that volume of young pitching, and I'm talking about Luis Ortiz, who was one of your better pitchers last year and a stalwart in your rotation, along with 2 top 20 prospects, you darn well better get back a guy where everybody looks at it and goes, all right, I hate the price to pay, but you know what? That guy's a solution. He's an actual bat. He's going to be here. And 2 examples of that, frankly, would have been like Ryan Mountcastle from Baltimore, Yandy Diaz from Tampa. You would have said, man, it stinks to lose it, but we need the bat. I get it. Those would have been trades I don't think Pirates fans would be riled up about. As it is, they just took an offseason of frustration and multiplied it by I don't know how many. And the article from Noah and Andrew did not help. I'm certainly not blaming them. They're doing their job as they should. But I also think there's some things we should clarify or come to the same level on. Those guys are saying payroll is going to decrease. There's going to be financial flexibility. They've shopped pitchers. All of this stuff is true. But I think we need to think about what has happened and what will happen. I would not be surprised that payroll decreases. I don't think on balance that the Pirates are going to be decreasing their payroll from last year. If they do that, that would be insane and unacceptable. And everybody should, yell and scream and get as mad as you possibly want. Now, do I think it could dip in periods? Do they make another trade without the completion of a move later? Do they make a trade so they can have a free agent signing? Yeah, very possibly. And I hate that. If we're just being honest, like I don't like that way of doing business. I wish they would just go on the free agent market and sign somebody, or maybe you use trade to fix first base, like I said earlier with Diaz or Mountcastle, and then you go sign an outfielder, whatever the case may be. Now, at the end of this thing, when they report to spring training, I expect that end number to be about the same, which aligns with what those guys are reporting. But I don't think the Pirates are looking to take their payroll from $84 million last year, to $74 million or something like that. And does it make sense to trade those guys? Joe Starkey wrote a really good column sort of saying, in Bob Nunning's reality, unfortunately, this could be what is required. And I'm trying to take off my glasses where I really, really like Mitch Keller and Jared Jones, which I do personally, professionally, have been there for their entire journeys. And I wouldn't trade Jared Jones under hardly any circumstances. However, covering this regime, one of the things that I've learned about them is that they will look and investigate and talk about anybody. This is a consistent character trait when it's such things as we would do the non-tender deadline. The Pirates, and this would drive me bleeping crazy because I'd want to get on with my night, would drag it out until the last possible minute in case there's one thing that they can investigate, some guy who's non-tendered who might change their business, which I always thought was stupid and I still think is stupid. Just send your list in and move on. But they don't. They investigate everything. And I think a lot of that is true with this. Are they actively looking to get Jared Jones out of Pittsburgh or Mitch Keller out of Pittsburgh? No. Are they trying to meet an ultimate number that is roughly the same as last year while still improving the team? Yes. Do they have a plethora of pitching and a scarcity of bats? Yes. So you try to align all of those things with the idea of something like the winter meetings where a lot of names come up, and that's bound to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if they had those conversations about Jones and Keller and that got out, and then they make the Ortiz trade and they're like, no, we're good. We're good. We did it. We had conversations about guys. You didn't pay us a king's ransom for Jones. Weren't going to pay us a king's ransom for Keller. We feel like we got what we wanted for Ortiz, even though all of us on the outside will disagree with that. That's fine. I'm trying to explain kind of how I believe they're looking at it. And again, nobody's wrong here, but it just creates some things, some friction, which I understand, but that's kind of where I'm at with this. And now, objectively, is it a dumb move to trade Mitch Keller? I go back and forth on that. His salary is going to escalate around $20 million in the final year of his deal, I believe. Can the Pirates replicate what Mitch Keller did for cheaper? That's the way they're looking at this. Again, probably devoid of a human element, maybe a little bit too much on a spreadsheet. We can have that conversation. Let's save it for another time, though. Look at Mitch Keller's numbers. The way the Pirates are looking at this is, can I bring up Bubba Chandler and have him replace that? Can I bring up Thomas Harrington and have him replace that? Can I bring up Johan Oviedo, Mike Burrows, Braxton Ashcraft, and replace that? It's kind of a valid question. It's not totally an endorsement of the thing because at the beginning of this sermon, I said that I would rather them just spend money on a first baseman and keep all the pitching they have. I hate trading young pitching, and I will disagree until I keel over on that idea. But I'm trying to look at this from their perspective. I'm trying to look at it from my perspective, and I'm trying to give an opinion that is at least semi-informed on what they're doing. So anyway, Sam, thanks for the question. Didn't expect to go that long, but Andy Fetter asks, this will be the last one I do. If the Pirates trade Jones and Keller, will that be the final straw for fans? Had high hopes with the team with our pitching and then just smacked in the face with trimming payroll news. Andy, I addressed a lot of that. They're not going to trade Jones and Keller. I fail to see a world where they'd trade either one at all, having already traded Ortiz. And frankly, no, it probably wouldn't be the final straw for fans. I think fans would continue to go. I think they'd continue to be passionate about this team. I fielded so much criticism on this. I always do. And it makes me respect Pirates fans that much more because they care. It'd be a problem if fans were indifferent to all of this. It'd be a problem if they just tuned out and they didn't read. I'm not lying to you when I say our traffic numbers are fantastic for Pirates content. Noah and Andrew put that story out. It did very well. I write Pirates columns. You guys read them. And it's a credit to you. And it's a credit to how much you care and how much you invest. And you get mad because sometimes this team doesn't reciprocate the passion, or at least it doesn't appear to reciprocate the passion. The Pirates are trying to do things in a different way. It's an interesting way. It may work. It may not work. We saw portions of it last year work. Frankly, for all of you, I hope it does. We're not fans on the media side, but the city of Pittsburgh and all of you consuming this content and so much more about the Pirates, you deserve to have a winning team. You deserve to see something around Paul Skeens that works. I think there are different ways of doing this. I wouldn't give up young pitching again. I think it's something the Pirates should lean into. But I hope that somebody like Spencer Horwitz can find it here. I hope that Jack Sawinski can turn it around here. There's a very unique way to win that has to happen in Pittsburgh. It happened in 13, 14, 15. There was a lot leading up to that. And the only snapshot I'm taking here is all the positivity. But we'll see if we get to experience that again. It'll be a lot of fun to talk about. Anyway, this went long. Sorry. Hope you didn't mind. I know I'm told to just keep talking. It doesn't have to stick to 10 minutes. So this was an example of that. Anyway, enjoy your weekend. Enjoy some Pitt volleyball. Enjoy some Steelers football. We'll be back here on Monday to talk about all of it. Thanks for watching First 10.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.